Listeners, welcome back. It's time for Maya, my yoga audio, and I'm your host, Megan Morgan. We're back here for another wonderful interview with a very special guest. And Tamara Knox is a survivor of domestic violence from years ago. And accomplishing some of her goals and dreams, Tamara now identifies as a thriver in her community. In addition to being a Master's of Social Work graduate, Tamara is an award-winning photographer, photojournalist, mother, published author, business owner, and public speaker. Tamara was significantly influenced by the late American photographer, composer, author, poet, and film director Gordon Parks, particularly his statement, "My camera is my weapon for social justice." It's with this spirit that Tamara chose photography and clinical social work to uplift her community. This shows up best right now through her upcoming book that shows the process of going from surviving to thriving for community members. Tamara uses trauma-informed photography and ethical storytelling to record, preserve, and share these thrivers' stories. The book is going to be accompanied by an exhibit at the Russ Solomon Gallery, showcasing portraits of community thrivers and their accounts of changing their narratives. Her work is centered on enabling people to feel celebrated, empowered, uplifted, safe, and confident. Tamara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Megan. And and thank you for just I wanted to give a quick thank you to Griselda, who introduced me to you, and who's one of the thrivers in the community and part of the exhibition. And just thank you so much for the work that you're doing in the show. Like, I love your podcast episodes. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So listeners, you probably know I think the episode with Griselda is so far our most listened to episode on YouTube, and the highest one on the audio podcast version last year for 2022. So go back and listen to that interview or watch it on YouTube if you haven't yet already. I think most of you have because it's been so popular. But yeah, Griselda Garcia Osegueda introduced Tamara Knox to me and I to her, and we just clicked right away. We've been trying to get this interview on the books for a while now, and we finally found the right date and time and space to get it done. And that's why today's going to be so great, because we finally arrived at the spot that we're meant to connect. And we have so much in common in terms of a photography background. As most of the listeners know, I went to art school, specifically focusing in photography. Gordon Parks was a huge inspiration for me as well, continues to be. Yeah, so delighted. I wondered if you would tell us kind of, in however order you want to tell it, kind of how, maybe telling us a bit about your story, and then also kind of which works of Gordon Parks or specific things about him and his work that inspired you to do the trauma-informed photography you do today.
Absolutely. Well, I always just want to start off by just thanking God for this gift in order to just, yeah, because I just can't take the credit at all. And I started to just the beginning of my story. I attended a 6-week program in terms of, because I am a domestic violence survivor. And I just remember attending the program. They focus on supporting women to get back, on their feet. And, I was just totally in that mode, just, depressed, just feeling just very, very embarrassed. And so I remember just kind of being like really slouchy in the chair. And I was waiting for, I see this beautiful woman, and she's, just looks amazing. And she gets up and she talks about she speaks about being an artist, a gallery owner, a wife. And then all of a sudden she says a 13-year survivor of domestic violence. And so I couldn't do, she had my attention. Like all I could do was just get taller and just, she had my full attention. And so I didn't know at the time, and then we'll probably talk about it later on. But she was giving to a room full of women. She was speaking like asset-based messaging. She started first with just speaking about her all of the accomplishments that she encountered. And then from there, I just continued to, and even it started with her as being my mentor, introducing me to amazing creative people. Like my next mentor, in terms of, she's still a local photographer here, and she spoke in terms of watercolor and imagery. She began to like mentor me, and it just went on and on. And actually, I'll never like forget, like I found out that photography is very expensive, and I didn't know how I was gonna really, I was prepared to, like in a meeting with her, just prepared, I was gonna tell her the truth, like, yeah, I'm gonna do photography, but probably not gonna stay in it because it's, I just learned it was very expensive. And I just remember that she went to her supporters and was like, hey, this lady, she needs a camera. And I'm like, and she just, handed me a camera one day. And of course, I'm like, how can I ever repay you? And she was like, just keep doing what you're doing. And, you need to be doing this. And so I'll never forget that.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay.
moving on.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah. And so um, so basically, um, I gravitated towards photography because I literally only had like two images. And this was from when I was, in the household that I was in. I only had like two photos when we got out of my son. And so naturally I just gravitated towards documenting his life and things around him and the things around me. And I ended up through this process, I attended Sacramento City College, their amazing photography program, and just being around some wonderful people, including the my professors and staff, who always, that they supported me. And I also worked at the Sacramento City College, the Cultural Awareness Center at the time, under Victoria Henderson, and she's actually an MSW. And ironically, later on, she encouraged me to pursue my MSW degree. So I never want to, forget that. And then working at the Cultural Awareness Center, like I had the opportunity to not only coordinate the events, but then, I don't know, it's kind of like a puzzle. Like I coordinate this event and then I could capture all these amazing images of the event. So that was pretty cool. And then in addition to that, I also, like we also joined domestic violence awareness month in October. I got to do a lot of events that month for years. And so just again, helping to coordinate it, bringing people to the campus to let the students know about, these the different resources that are available. Um, and being able to capture that was really important to me. And like for me, just I did not know about I didn't know that there was a domestic violence shelter, like, ever in my life. Like, in the community, like, at least for me and my family, we didn't really talk about domestic violence and things of that nature. And so, like, I just didn't know. I just knew I wanted to get out, and I was trying to borrow money. And then I just remember reaching out to Miss Anna, and who is indigenous, and so her like, with her indigenous name, it means woman standing tall. And so I remember just reaching out to her, and she was sharing about all these resources, about the shelter itself. And so that's that that's why I kind of want to make sure to, I guess that's where my passion comes from, in sharing all the different resources that are out there, and being able to use the camera to, help with that. And so also I want to, so regarding the Gordon Parks, he is, he, he was like, learning about his works during my life was just a godsend, because I was seeing that he was able to take a situation, because that was in the time of, racism, and also him being part. It's so cool that you know about him too, but him being a part of, like, a big family, and like, with poverty and things of that nature. I did not know at the time that, like, I couldn't name it, but he was changing his narrative, and then he was changing the narrative of the people that he was capturing images of. So that's why he inspires me the way that he does, because he was able to take, like, the situation, because in the time of racism, like, they speak about that he got assignments that no one else wanted. And so he was able to create these amazing images. And, like, the one that you might already know about, like, the woman that's standing in front of the flag. Just, yeah, so, like, he changed her narrative. He changed the people that viewed that that image. Yeah. And so I hope I answered your questions.
Oh, absolutely. I know I tend to sometimes when I listen back to episodes, and I'll be like asking a question and then follow up this and follow up that, and the poor person's trying to remember everything, because to me all the ideas flow into one another about your story, about whoever the guest story is. And so just was, yeah, interested in the arc of your life and how that came about. So I guess my next questions, it is plural, um are kind of a combination of advice, because as you mentioned, you weren't, when you were in the situation you were in, that you weren't aware there was resources and shelters and people who could help you and your son. For someone who may be listening who's in that situation, or someone who knows of someone who's maybe in that situation and wants to help, what would kind of be a few things you would recommend to those people about beginning to find help? And then I guess more on the spark. I think you've started to tell us about your history and kind of where that spark came from. But I'm curious if it all happened after you got out of your situation, your artistic spark, or whether that's something that's kind of been there all along and it was really awakened by the gift of a camera. Now that we know that too, because that's a huge gift.
Okay, I might ask you about that a little later, right? Just to make sure I answered everything. But
No
I'll
problem.
start off by, in the helping others. The first thing that I would say is to encourage them to breathe and to continue to like make time for them and show up. Um, you know, start the conversation. Um, they always encourage us in social work, like, how can I support you? Like, you never want to make the person feel like they're not, because they're already feeling unsupported. So like finding out, and um, again, kind of letting them drive it, and listening without judgment, learning warning signs, um, you know, just in my lived experience, um, my dad actually was ready to go and get me, and someone told him that she really has the one to come. That's what it all comes down to. So just being able to like I said, be able to support that person and um, maintain that level of like regular contact with the person. And then, and I know we'll probably keep revisiting this, but sharing like all of the different resources that are available. Like there's so many resources that are out there, and it's actually that was part of driving this reason for the exhibition and the book, is just to like we have so many amazing community thrivers that are out there, including and we'll probably talk about it later, the cohort that I'm a part of with the seeding creativity individuals. Like there's just so many people, so many artists that are just creating for change, for community change. And so being able to, and that's one of the reasons why in the Cultural Awareness Center, it was so, I just really love my job because I was able to, create these different events to help, to create that awareness so that people understand, like, or are aware of these different resources that were part of the community. So, and also with the job that I interned at was Beloved Survivors Trauma Recovery Center. Like we're doing so many amazing things, in terms of helping the survivor. And the um, the lady that inspired it, Callie Jean, like she was unfortunately, like I'm constantly reminded that I I got out with my life, but unfortunately she didn't survive. But this was a woman that was going, and she was doing all the right things, but she still lost her life. So I'm feeling like I just really am holding on to like my calling, and just continuing to kind of put the anything that comes to resources, I'm always trying to put it out there. And then that's also the reason for the exhibition, um, is to provide this space. Like for myself, I just felt honored that the thrivers and or the storytelling participants just trusted me with their stories. And therefore, I wanted to create a place that was able to like celebrate them, but also, and it's like, it's still going on, but I just see this place where they're able to network with each other, and they're able, and again, the information is, people are gathering information and taking it back to, whatever communities that they're serving. So they're aware that there's these different resources that are out there.
Oh, that was a wonderful answer, and I'm very sorry to hear about one of your mentors, not surviving the situation. And it reminded me of a previous guest that we've also had on the show named Jessie Bliss. And she works out of the Southern California, Los Angeles area. And she does a lot of work in the arts with women who are incarcerated. And one of the things that she revealed to me, like the statistics, which are available, and she's done her research
Yeah,
because that's who she works with. She said the vast majority of them are incarcerated because they are trying to protect themselves and or their children from domestic
absolutely.
violence. And even now my hair just stands up on end on my arms because it's, people are really really fighting for their lives and in self-defense are sometimes committing crimes, but it's because crimes are being committed against them. And so that's a thing I think a lot more people need to hear more often. Like, not only do the women don't always survive or the children don't always survive, but sometimes the perpetrators as well. And it's because, the women are trying to defend themselves in some of those cases. And just thank you for bringing to light not only just your personal story, but the people you work with and the kind of impact that that has on all our lives, and why this work is so so important. I know we've been kind of hinting at this the whole show. Just tell us more about the upcoming book, the project that inspired it, and the show that's coming up. And it's, I know it's a difficult topic, but I think it's really blossoming. Your story and all these people's stories that you've been working with is really bringing something beautiful to light. And I'm also curious if someone ever took your picture to show you how beautiful you are coming out of your situation.
It's so sweet. Yeah, ironically, yes.
Good.
I don't want to forget to just clarify, because maybe I didn't communicate it correctly, but so the lady that lost her life, my mentor, and supervisor at Beloved Survivors, she actually created the organization and was inspired by this lady that
Okay.
lost her life. So I don't want to forget that part.
Mhm.
Um, and then what was your question again?
Um, if someone took your photo and that kind of showed you how beautiful you are and could be, especially coming out of this quote unquote, like, ugly situation, but showing you how beautiful you are as a person, because I know that's what you do for your clients and the people you work with. And then just to get into more about this project, this book, and the show that's coming up featuring your work.
Yes, well, ironically, um, there was a time that I actually could not, like I couldn't really look at you right now. Like I was constantly like looking down. But yeah, someone did capture my image. Um, and like I to this day I think about it, and it just really um inspires me to continue. And the name of Renee Domingo is the photographer, and it it just really encouraged me to, like, in seeing myself be like free and motivated and just moving forward, um, happy. um, that was really a like a turning point to me being able to develop my confidence and be able to move forward and continue like in helping others. And just in terms of the project, again, it's like you mentioned, um, it's about um, the community thrivers in the project. I mean, community thrivers within our community. And I wanted to start it, start out like just in terms of being able to celebrate and collaborate with the storytellers. The concept that I was able to learn about was ethical storytelling. And so one of the reasons why I was so attracted to it was it's about the owner, I mean the storyteller being the owner of their own story and their own truth. And so just and again just being able to collaborate with that person. So just moving forward, um, the the project itself was an opportunity to like celebrate and collaborate with the participants there. Like in terms of, for me, I've been asked to share my story, but I've also been a little uncomfortable with sharing it. And I've realized that the uncomfortableness comes from like kind of feeling like you know, I can't tell it in the way that I want to tell it. And so um, again, that was why I was really attracted to ethical storytelling. And what I did in the process was I taught the concept, and I learned this concept actually my partner and team member Autumn Payne from our company ethical narrative, she shared the idea with me. And then I took it to I needed to have, we had to work on a project in class. So I was able to research, research the concept and, understanding that it was like a grassroots movement. And my professor there, Dr. Russo, she was just very encouraging and answered all my questions. And so that was, so I've been able to really focus on, so that's kind of where the project kind of came from.
And so what is, just remind us, because now I can't remember if I read
Okay.
it in the bio at the beginning, the
Yes.
name of the project and then the two. So it's my understanding that you interviewed people who have come out on the other side of a difficult situation.
Yes.
So there's like narrative text from them and maybe some interview quotes, but then also a photography book that shows them being photographed by you in their um, more newly empowered state. Is that correct?
Right. Absolutely. So initially I had a book that was called Standing Tall.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the Standing Tall was inspired by Miss Anna. Um, and in this particular book, I wasn't able to, I mean, with this particular book, the the concept was more on the surviving part and just, being free. So the concept was about being able to do something that you weren't able to do when you were in the relationship. So, I still, and again, I didn't realize I was using some of the concepts of ethical storytelling, but I wanted to um, be mindful of the storytellers that I was capturing. And so I didn't really focus on their faces. I focused on what they were doing and what they were now able to do. And so now fast forwarding, and ironically, some of them have agreed. I'm so excited to be in this particular book, including my mentor, the beautiful lady that just encouraged me, being a 13-year survivor. But just being able to kind of move forward, these particular storytelling participants, they're able to, it's just about moving forward in their truth and like join it together. So it's me and them working together to share what they feel comfortable sharing. Because for me, understanding in my lived experience that at one particular time, I didn't have a choice, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. It's a collaboration. So at the Russ Solomon Gallery, will that be, well, let us know the dates. And if it's open to the public, I don't know if it's invite only or open to the
Yeah,
public.
there is. So one is invite only, and that's for the storytellers themselves. This is an opportunity for them to see the work and just, be at one with the work at once at one time. And then we'll have the reception will be August, the second Saturday in August
Okay.
from 1 to 3. Yes. And I'm hoping that you'll be there too.
I would love to be. And is that's in the Sacramento, that's at Los Rios, right?
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's at the Russ Solomon Gallery.
Okay.
Yes, it's at Sacramento City College.
Okay, perfect. So listeners will be posting about that as the August date approaches for the public reception. And I love, by the way, that you have the two, of course you do, the two different experiences, right? So that the participants can experience the work and the reaction to the work and their part in the work, in more relative safety than you would with potentially hundreds of people being there. And, it's an emotional time. I'm sure it's going to be for a lot of people. So will the book also be available at the same time as the show opens or before?
No, I wish I could say that it will be, but it's not. But it gives you something. But it again, it's like a sneak peek
Okay.
of what's going to be in the book. All of the images and I don't want to give it away, but yeah, it is going to be part of the book.
Okay.
And then that the book, in terms of the Seeding Creativity grant that I was so graciously offered from the Office of Arts and Culture, the deadline for the book to be completed is October.
Okay.
So, it could be done before then, but I'm sticking to October.
Yes. So, well, that gives us two things to look forward to. There's the show, and then we can go
Yes.
and digest that. And then the book in the fall, which will be perfect for gift giving and all of that good stuff. I wanted to ask you about, because I know you're a trauma informed photographer. And so I was just curious if you could expand on it a little bit. I know with yoga and in many other practices, there's like specific training that you do to be trauma informed, or if it more comes from your perspective as someone who's come through trauma, and so you're using your experience and of knowledge of being in these really challenging situations to approach subjects, or just a little bit more about what that means for listeners.
Okay. So, yes. Yes, it did. And ironically, it's both. Um, Photography was for me, it was healing for me, and it also helped me to kind of battle from isolation and depression. Like for me, ironically, I could not um do anything without a camera. Does that make sense? Like if I was gonna leave the house, I needed my camera to do that. Um, and so I didn't have a name for it again at the time, before I started researching at CSUS, Stanislaw. But basically, I realized I was changing my narrative through imagery and images in order for me to function at that time. And then also I didn't like, although it was kind of offered, the other thing, um, the like medication and things of that nature, which I feel like medication, that's wonderful if it works for you. It just didn't, it was something that I didn't want to use at the time. And so the alternative was being able to use some type of hobby or to work through the depression and isolation and things of that nature. And so with narrative therapy, it's a method of it's a method of therapy that actually separates a person from their problem. So it's like we're sharing with folks that you're actually not the problem. It's the environment and the circumstances that are surrounding you that are adding to the challenges that you're having in your life. And so for me, that I relied on my camera to my camera and my faith to help me minimize my problems. And yeah, it took me years to realize that was that was what I was doing. But once I realized it, it came full circle, and I was like, this is what I want to do for my career, and I would help other people in doing it. And so, I'm sorry, I just lost my. I apologize. I just lost my ear thing.
No problem.
Yeah, but and I just want to share that I'm really like grateful to Tina Rodriguez. She is my when I was going through my internship at Beloved Survivors, she really understood what I was trying to do, and so her support in helping me to like use narrative therapy with images and my clinical work through my internship, like I just really appreciated her, really appreciated her just really seeing my vision and like really supporting me and encouraging me. And so in attending also like in attending CSU and receiving, I also received like a lot of encouragement. All my entire cohort received a lot of encouragement with the different specializations that we could go into. Mine happened to be trauma, and ironically, my favorite class was macro social work with Dr. Russo. I just really appreciate, again, I was in her office like all the time with all my questions in terms of the concept of using ethical storytelling. And then the other part of, because again, like from ethical storytelling, we created ethical narrative, Autumn and I. And the cool thing about it was we were able to combine, she's an amazing visual journalist and just amazing person. And then the social work skills that I had, we was able to kind of combine them together. And so, and then just being able to have the guidance of your professor is always awesome as well.
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. I had it as like a question, then I realized it's not really a question because I was saying like, oh, your photography work and your clinical social work have come together and it's just your whole life now. And it's
Right.
whether you're
Yeah.
emphasizing the arts or whether you're emphasizing the social work, you're really kind of doing both at once. And I find the camera, just me personally, to be such a great equalizer, but the person that's holding the camera, that's their perspective, that's their view, that's their worldview. And whether it's artistic or documentary or journalistic. There's always a perspective there. So I think it's particularly powerful for trauma survivors to be able to use that as a tool. Like when you said like I couldn't leave the house without my camera, because that's
Mhm.
your shield, so to speak. I
Mhm.
kind of the way I
Yeah.
look at it in the world. It's like, yes, you have your faith and you know you've come out on the other side, but this is also, and I don't like to use the word weapon. That's the one that keeps coming to mind. I don't know if it's a tool. It's your
Yeah.
tool out in the world to be able to be like, even when you're not saying anything, this is still your voice. This is still your vision. This is still, Tamara's stamp on the world, which is such a beautiful thing. And I love that you've brought forward the ethical storytelling aspect, because I feel like that's what this podcast is about. The people that I most want to have on the show, like you, are those that have a really compelling and unique story to tell, but it's like it's wellness related in some ways. So there's two things I want to ask you. Um, One is wellness related in terms of when you get triggered now, or when something just happens in the world that's upsetting, whether it's triggering or not. What are some of your self-care practices about how you take care of Tamara, and how you make sure you're going to be okay for the next, hour, day, week, some of the things you do. And then the second was to ask you to play the game of storytelling with me, where the moth, we've been bringing this up as often as I can remember on the show when I interview someone. It's another traveling show and podcast that I follow, where they invite people from all walks of life to share their story based on a theme. And I don't know that they've ever used the words ethical storytelling, but they have always said these stories are true as remembered and told by the storyteller, like, authorizing their truth to be what it is on that stage. So I was hoping you'd play along with that too, after sharing some of your self-care practices.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things that I share with my clients is to have an appointment with yourself. So I make it a practice to kind of reevaluate and make sure I don't share anything with anyone that I'm not doing. So the goal is to show up for myself first. Like they always tell you about the airplane, like you
Yeah.
save yourself and then you save your child. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I use that with social work too, like in terms of, I feel like, people are trusting me, you know, with, um, and being able to help them. So, again, I want to make sure that I give myself what I need first, and then, I move on to them, including my son. Um, so ironically, with this wonderful project, um, I decided to include myself. And in doing that, I realized that like I started having these feelings, and I did the exercise um, that I presented to all of the other storytellers, and I just noticed started having some feelings, feeling some type of way, and like the whole 9 yards. And so I had to remind myself that, hey, I'm human, and like it's okay. But it was interesting because I actually, and then I checked in, like um I'm studying for my law and ethics exam, and they're always, they shared it's important to check in, whether with a therapist or your supervisor. So I did both. I read a book, like I did the whole 9 yards. I remember reading this book called The Body Keeps Score, and it actually talks about, yeah, it talks about, well, you might remember it talks about the expressive arts, like in terms like you need it. It kind of helps you to work through everything. So I just realized that I was fine. Like everything was fine. And so um, that was part of, um, that was kind of an aha moment for myself. But I was able to, see that, and oh, something that comes up in social work is reframing. So I saw what was happening, and I just, reframed everything. But that ended up being something that I felt like I needed um, to go through. Um, but it also, I did, one of the things that um, I did was um, taking walks, exercising, like I did the whole 9 yards. But it also, um, my mentor for the seating creativity project, she asked me, she was like, well, like, what do you think about, um, how do you feel like with, talking to the other storytellers? And then I thought about it, and I felt like I'm really glad I did what I did. Like, I had already checked in with them. I had already, because one of the things that I asked them, in the project, I do ask them to do some writing. But what I also did was uh I gave them a choice. Like, they could write down what they were going to write down ahead of time, or they could write it down when they were there after we captured their image. Then they were supposed to write on this journal entry. And so I was just thinking, well, wow, I'm just, you know, so appreciative that I was able to do that. Um, I just felt better that I was able to give the care to them, if that makes sense.
It
Yeah,
really
because I,
does. Hmm.
yeah, because I had actually kind of denied myself for a minute, because I didn't do everything until the day of. And, I'm like, why am I walking back? Why am I coming back? Yes, I was going through all of the emotions. So I was like really grateful that I did it for them. And they even shared with me that, they were happy that, you know, I did with what I did, in terms of, because when they came to the sessions, I had, their favorite music playing. I had their favorite color. Yeah, and again, I just try not to give away too much, because I want you to
Yeah.
come to the exhibition. But it was really about a celebration of the thrivers and what they were doing, and including myself.
Yeah, I'm just saying you were step by step. It wasn't just like, here's what you're gonna do, and this is when you're gonna
Yes,
do it and how you're gonna do it. You were also taking part. So it's like you're in it. You're in the trenches with them.
yes,
Yeah. Oh, you're
absolutely.
amazing. You're amazing. I'm
Thank
reaching to
you.
the side here to find a card from the moth
Oh, looking forward to
storytelling
this
thing.
moth.
Yeah. You're like, and it can be answered in any context, story, memory, example, that you want to share. I'm trying not to look because I want to try to pick a random um one. Okay, so it's two sides. So I'll read both sides because it gives you more time to think of it.
Okay.
Curveballs. Prepare a story about the unexpected, unanticipated, or unforeseen. Wild cards, surprise guests, fire alarms, sudden rainstorms, a breakup or a makeup, a new spin on an old routine. Be ready for anything. And then the other one is it's just a shorter prompt. Tell us about a time you thought you had it in the bag, a time it didn't go your way, or a time you should have seen it coming.
Oh, so it's one or the other?
You can pick any of those questions. It's all about curveballs, but sometimes they reframe it just to help people think of examples when something you should have seen coming, something when something didn't go your way, a time when you thought something was all said and done, and then oh, guess what? It's not. So it's just kind of I guess unexpected detours in your story.
Okay. Um, I guess for me, I'll use myself and my son, in terms of what's going on in our life right now, just in terms of, I expected basically knowing that as a parent, like I wasn't given a manual. And so it was something like, you know, I just kind of had to take it one day at a time. And um and I guess I was expecting if I like again, I use photography like in our daily lives. Like we've able, he's actually in photography as well. Um, and so we kind of use it in our communication together. And now we're here where he's 18. And my whole thing is I, you know, like he's 18. I guess that's the part I wasn't expecting. So I'm just gonna be transparent.
Yes.
Yeah. And so like they speak about trauma bonds and things of that nature. Um, and so, I feel like I'm doing the work. I've given him what he needs to know to move forward. I've accepted, and I understand that like God is totally driving this as well. But like that day is here. And so I guess that's the unexpected part. And I see this amazing individual that's, just, moving forward, and, he has that love for God, and he has a passion that's driving him to, do the things that he's doing. Um, yeah, but I guess I did not expect it to be. I'm just being transparent. It's just creating some images. I mean, some feelings that I'm just trying to um, work through. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. I was speaking to my yoga client that I was telling you about earlier today that I work with every weekend. And I said I still, like every week, I still cannot believe that I have like women that are my children.
Mm-hmm.
It's a surprise to me every time
Yes.
the thought comes to my brain, or when people ask how old my kids are and they assume they're children or teenagers, and I'm like, no, they're full on adults living with their
Yeah.
partners in other cities, and that blows my mind every single time. Every single time. And that transition, I've been pretty transparent on this podcast about it too. I've had guests on where I've asked them about help with that transition because I found it so difficult. I was very, and still am, very, very close with my daughters. And I didn't know how to let go. I didn't know how to be anything other than 150% cling
Yep.
on mom. I
That
felt
part.
like that. Yeah. And it took a few years for me, but it's still like if I had my way, we would all still live here together. Nothing would ever change.
I agree.
Yeah, that transition period can be a little rough. So we can talk more offline about that too. And I'd be happy to put you in touch with some of the people who helped me kind of see that. I'm coming out the other side of it now, but I mean, they're in their 20s. It took a solid 2 years of me kind of adjusting to do that.
Wow.
Yeah. So
You
you are
don't
not
you
alone.
Yeah, I must say this. You don't look like you have children in their 20s.
Oh,
So
oh,
I love your skin.
thank you. No, there's I don't know. I did have children fairly young, but I'm also older than I look, maybe. So it's a combination of both. Oh, I'm just saying, want to say I don't want to take your time, but more just that my heart is with you, and I get that. The 18, like, wait, I have a fully grown adult in my house now, and like, what comes
Yeah,
next? And it's another big transition for both of you. It is for him,
right.
but hugely so for you too, because you've bonded on so many levels, not just as mother and son, but through your experiences together. And yeah, that's a whole other layer. Thank you for just
You're
sharing that
welcome.
with us and continuing to be vulnerable. I want people to follow you, get in touch with you, because I mean, you were like, people can hire you to do their portraits or work on their journalistic stories, right? Or things that they're working on. I know you're present on social media, and you always have very inspiring and lovely things for people to follow along and learn from. So if you would share with us the best place for listeners to get a hold of you and learn more about your work.
They can follow me at Focus TMK, and also the work that I'm doing with Autumn at Ethical Narrative. So and it's just Ethical Narrative. Um, I don't want to leave out anyone. So the Office of Arts and Culture, they're at Sac City Arts, and they also have a new website, oacseatingcreativity.com. And so I just don't want to forget to share all of the amazing artists that are part of the grant. So yeah, it's an amazing website. I do, to answer your question, I do now trauma informed photography sessions. And so they can reach me at the Focus TMK or TMK Inspired photo.com. And just to go back to your question regarding what to share with you know, loved ones, or people that are trauma or in trauma situations. One thing that I did want to share was that it's important to sorry, it's important to continue to be in spaces. And also I wanted to mention that I met Autumn and Tina through Sacramento City College. So again, it's important for them to be around like different spaces that are where people feel nurtured and supported. And so being being in those particular environments, Sacramento City College and CSU Stan, I met them through Sac City College and continue to work with them through CSU Stanislaus. And so just wanting to remind people that again, there's these spaces, trauma-informed spaces that more and more are out there, and just being able to also, that leads me to Sacramento City College at Sac City Photo, which again is an amazing amazing program in itself that kind of we really encourage the students to be creative and do like whatever they want, like their hearts are telling them to do.
No, it's my one of my daughters also, I think we were talking offline about this before, went to Sac City College for 2 years before transferring to a university, and absolutely loved her time there. Had some of the same teachers and in the programs that you did. So I agree. I speak very highly of that school and the staff. And I know I have several friends who are part-term and part-time and full-time staff that are there, and you're associated with the school. So it's like, you know what, it's an amazing community. And like you said, there are different ways that people will find healing through their journey. And so whether that's medication and or therapy and or arts and expression and or writing and or physical activity, like all of those things are helpful. And hopefully everyone can experience all of them to find what's going to work best for them, and move through these really traumatic and challenging stages of life that can bring them out on the other side into more of a thriving position and stance in life. And I want to reveal something a little bit personal, just as an extra, that you've been so vulnerable with us and sharing your story and your work. And I just returned home from burying my biological grandmother, but who was my mother, who I called mother because my biological mom died when I was a baby. And I've known this my whole life, but we kind of talked about it more in this recent trip, that she left her first marriage and the father of my biological mother because of domestic violence, and like literally left the country. She was in Europe and came to Canada to get away from him. And I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, what if she hadn't been able to do that? Like, would my mother even have been born? Or if she'd stayed with him, what would that have been like for them growing up? And just all the ramifications that can ripple out across generations, due to situations of domestic violence, in which people didn't used to talk about. They didn't really talk about it back then, but we're talking about it now. And we have really brave people like you who are coming forward and sharing your story and sharing the stories of others. And I'm not going to cry. So I just want to thank you for being such a sweet and gentle and powerful and empowered spirit and woman, who's just, sharing herself and her work and her experience so freely in the world. So we can all do a little bit better, even if it's just our awareness, and in supporting your art and in supporting the programs that help to support people who are coming out of these situations. I'm so glad that you mentioned so many of the programs and institutions who have helped you, just so that people are aware that there are other things that can make a difference once you get out. There's other pathways to go forward. So, Tamara.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Megan, thank you so much for what you just shared. Thank you for your transparency. That really gives me encouragement. Thank you.
Yeah. You've made it. I already know, but this hasn't even aired. It'll air next June. Oh my gosh, I don't have a calendar in front of me. June 7th, 10th. But I just know that somebody's going to hear your voice and hear your story or hear about the work you're doing, and it's going to change something. It's going to change that narrative, or they're going to come to your show, or they're going to buy your book or be inspired by one of the people in your book. So yeah, that's what it's all about. One person at a time. The more we can reach, the better. But like, even if it's one person, it's worth it. So thank you for you, Tamara.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're just a gem. And listeners, I hope you will follow along with Tamara online. I will, of course, put her links to Instagram and her website in the show notes. And then as we're promoting episodes for this on Instagram at my.yoga.audio, I'll be sharing links to Tamara's page and to her website and some fabulous photos of her, because, she's got them, being a photographer now. I don't know if you took them or other people, but they're fantastic. So look forward.
That reminds me, Megan.
Yeah.
That reminds me of one of your questions, like, what is the work that I liked in terms of like with Gordon Parks.
Oh yeah.
But then what's my work? Is my favorite piece of work is on my wall now, of again, Patricia, my mentor. And it's a picture of her welding. Like she was the lady that said she was a gallery owner and a welder.
Okay.
It's a picture of her welding, and that's just so inspiring and empowering. So again, it just goes back, like, I really appreciate what you're doing in terms of just inspiring and empowering others. And so thank you.
I think that's perfect, because I have an image in my head now. I'm like, she's in the fire, right? But she's in the fire of her choosing now, right?
Absolutely.
And doing this work.
Yeah.
Oh, That's perfect. That's so perfect. Thank you for sharing
You're
that.
welcome.
Oh, listeners, please keep in touch with Tamara online. I'll post all those links, and on Instagram, we'll be posting the little clips, and on TikTok. I can't remember how long it's been since I've mentioned that, but a lot of these episode clips are doing really well on TikTok. There's a very receptive audience there to a lot of the topics that we're talking about. So if you're on TikTok, go seek out my yoga audio over there, where I post a lot of these clips. And until next time, my friends, here at my yoga audio, we always say it's a great time for your mind and your body to be on the mat, wherever that may be. There are 8 limbs of yoga, and only one of them is physical. So the focus of this podcast is on the mind and on wellness and on the body, and how all those things integrate together, and the people we can meet along the way who can help us on our own paths, no matter where we come from or where we're going or what line of work we're in. There's always a way to connect with the guests that we have on the show and their life experience and things that they have to offer. So thank you for being with us today. And until next time, be well.